Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor. And thank you to Secretary Heffernan and your team over at Administration and Finance. You've worked really hard on this budget, and we appreciate your dedication. This spending plan will continue to support communities and families throughout Massachusetts as we move forward with the COVID-19 recovery. It will also further strengthen our ongoing partnerships as we fund critical programs and municipal services. Our administration recognizes the important role local government plays in delivering essential services to our constituents. Consistent with previous budget proposals, we are proposing to increase unrestricted general government aid, or UGA, consistent with the projected 3.5% increase in tax revenue. This translates to a $39.5 million increase in UGA and a $1.168 billion total investment. We are making these substantial investments without raising taxes. In 2015, our administration launched the Community Compact Cabinet Program, which champions municipal interests across all executive secretariats and agencies and develops best practices for the state and municipalities. It's been an honor to work with our local officials on strengthening the way that they deliver services throughout the communities in our Commonwealth. And I do want to thank the legislature for their collaboration, their partnership, and their support for the Best Practices Program and our commitment, our shared commitment to our municipalities. Today's proposal includes $4 million in funding for the Community Compact-related programs, including best practices and regionalization and efficiency grants. Additionally, the budget includes $4.8 million for the Public Safety Staffing Grant Program managed by the Executive Office of Public Safety, as well as $3 million for district local technical assistance. Our fiscal 22 budget proposal is another opportunity for the administration to continue our strong track record supporting public safety. We know that law enforcement and first responders throughout the Commonwealth face increasingly complex challenges, and it's very important to ensure transparency, trust, and accountability. This budget proposal it proposes significant criminal justice and public safety investments, including nearly $214 million for medical and mental health contract costs with the Department of Corrections, $61.8 million in reentry and diversion programs, and $11.3 million in funding for the Shannon Grant Program to fund anti-gang and youth violence prevention efforts. Our proposal includes $4.1 million for the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, which will help improve the state of readiness and support local communities need across our Commonwealth. MEMA has played a critical role during the COVID-19 pandemic, including PPE warehousing and distribution, did an incredible effort standing up and supporting food security efforts across our state. This funding will allow the agency to do more frequent and in-depth reviews on emergency management plans, increasing trainings and exercises and staffing, and warehouse critical commodities. The COVID-19 pandemic and the public health response measures, such as quarantining and social distancing, have created new challenges for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. As the chair of the Governor's Council addressing these issues, I understand how critical a priority this must be for our administration, and we are continued to work closely with community partners and local stakeholders to ensure that survivors and their families have access to services and supports necessary in times of crisis. Thank you for your ongoing efforts during these challenging months to support victims and survivors, all of you. This budget continues supporting these efforts with proposed investments of $96 million in total funding. This represents a 48% increase compared to fiscal year 15. The sexual assault domestic violence investments include $50.3 million in funding for DPH to carry out domestic violence and sexual assault prevention and survivor services and emergency and transitional residential services for victims and their children. It includes $6 million to support the SANE program, our sexual assault nurse examiners. It also supports $1 million focusing on promoting healthy relationships and preventing dating violence among youth and teens, amplifying the Respectfully campaign. I want to thank my colleagues in the legislature for your ongoing support for these initiatives. $1.7 million for DCF to meet the needs of families involved in domestic violence situations and the Sexual Abuse Intervention Network. $33.8 million for DHCD to provide shelter, services, and housing assistance for individuals and families who are victims of or at risk of domestic abuse at home. On behalf of our administration, we are so thankful to the community leaders and advocates for your tireless work and making sure that these individuals get the support and they help to be safe and supported in our Commonwealth. I would now like to turn it over to Secretary Heffernan.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. I first want to thank Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito for their leadership and guidance throughout the budget process, as always. I also want to recognize and thank my fellow cabinet secretaries and their budget teams for their extensive work and collaboration this year. And let me also highlight the incredible work of our Budget Director, Brand Shim, our Undersecretary, Catherine Hornby, Deputies Sophia Capone, Olivia Graham, Olivia McCaffrey, and Paul Chong, and our hardworking, as always, our hardworking and dedicated team of fiscal policy analysts. Additionally, our A&F legal team pulled double duty this year, with the legislative session ending in January, and I would like to thank them for their tireless and nearly round-the-clock work. As we all know too well, the COVID-19 pandemic created budgetary challenges and economic difficulties for states around the country, including decreased tax revenues, changing demands for government services, and unanticipated costs and expenditures. But here in Massachusetts, as the governor mentioned, we have been better prepared to deal with the pandemic than many other states, due in part to our administration's continued focus on fiscal responsibility. This administration has consistently worked collaboratively to control costs of programs such as Mass Health, build up our financial reserves, and maintain fiscal discipline. And our ability to navigate and respond to the challenges of COVID-19 has also been made possible by our strong partnership with the legislature. We are proud to work closely with our legislative colleagues, especially Ways and Means Chairs Aaron Mikowitz and Mike Rodricks, as well as their teams. We look forward to continuing this productive relationship as we move forward with adopting a final budget for '22. I'd now like to briefly mention some of the notable fiscal highlights. House 1 includes $45.6 billion in gross spending, a slight decrease, 0.7%, over fiscal '21. This spending level is driven primarily by caseload and cost decreases at Mass Health, which experienced cost increases in '21 related to the pandemic. Our budget is based on a $30.12 billion consensus tax revenue estimate, which anticipates a 3.5% growth in total tax collections over fiscal '21 revenues. House 1 still includes substantial investments while maintaining fiscal discipline as the Commonwealth begins to transition away from one-time revenue and spending increases that we needed to combat the pandemic. These one-time initiatives have utilized various state and federal resources, both on and off budget. They help to ensure public health, address a variety of needs, both social and economic. Our budget proposal continues our commitment to funding critical priorities, such as encouraging economic growth and fully funding the first year of the Student Opportunity Act, while preserving substantial financial reserves for the future and without raising taxes on the Commonwealth's residents. House 1 authorizes a withdrawal of up to $1.6 billion from the Stabilization Fund, which would leave the fund with a balance of approximately $1.11 billion. This withdrawal would help ensure the continuation of essential government services and responsibly preserve financial reserves for fiscal 2023 and beyond. Working together with the legislature and the administration have been able to grow the Stabilization Fund pre-COVID more than threefold since 2015. This now enables us to face the budget challenges associated with COVID-19. It is also important to note that improvements in tax collections or new federal revenue sources would allow the amount of this Stabilization Fund withdrawal to be reduced. To promote continued fiscal stability and minimize risk to essential government services, House 1 recommends delaying the new charitable deduction until state budget is balanced without a withdrawal from the Stabilization Fund. House 1 also builds on the sales tax acceleration measures which were signed into law in December 2020. Our proposal further modernizes sales tax collections by requiring third-party payment processors to capture sales tax at the time of purchase and remit sales tax on credit cards and other electronic transactions daily. This initiative would not begin until 2024 and would be targeted towards some of the largest businesses operating in Massachusetts. To continue supporting and assisting individuals with disabilities, we are again recommending the creation of a new disability employment tax credit for businesses that hire individuals with disabilities. This tax credit would be $2,000 per employee who work a minimum of 18 consecutive months. House 1 also incorporates the fiscal impact of legislation we are filing today, which would allow people in Massachusetts to wager on professional sports. Our proposal, as the Lieutenant Governor said, also provides significant support for key issues, including substance abuse and misuse, sexual assault and domestic violence, racial equality and diversity, children and families, transportation, and public safety. In closing, I would like to reiterate my deep appreciation for our consistently strong relationship with both the House and Senate Ways and Means. We look forward to working with our partners in the legislature to deliver a responsible fiscal plan for fiscal 22, and that both fund critical priorities and can continue to maintain fiscal discipline. Thank you.